whatever it is, maybe something that we say here today changes the course of your day or your year or your life. And all of that started with one small step that you have already taken, and it just takes one more step on top of that to keep moving forward and just create epic momentum to live that epic life that you were born to live.
Welcome to Close Up Radio, where our hosts, Doug Llewellyn and Jim Masters, bring you the amazing stories of people who answered the call to unlock their potential and taken control of their own success with authenticity, creativity, persistence, and resilience. Close Up Radio special guests share their knowledge and wisdom so you, the listener, can live the most empowered life possible. Close Up Radio. And now, here's today's host, Jim Masters.
Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We're live worldwide on Close Up Radio, and it's a pleasure to have you here. And we're continuing our conversation with Dr. Melissa Corley Carter. She is the barefoot dancing rocket scientist, an actual rocket scientist, 7 continents marathoner, astronaut, reject. That's what she says. Speaker, award-winning author, and certified professional coach who helps awesome humans live epic lives. I had an opportunity to meet her, actually, on a television shoot project, and she is absolutely extraordinary. Very inspiring person. She believes that your epic life actually is rocket science. And she's got you covered. With no math or equations, rocket science is essentially about going from where you are to where you want to be, acknowledging progress and adjusting course and letting go to lift off. And that's where she can help with her clients. And what's an epic life? Well, Melissa believes it's a life on your terms, aligned with your values and priorities. A life as powerful, unique, and awesome as you are. It's the life you were born to live. Before becoming a coach, Melissa spent 20 years aspiring to become an astronaut. She's earned 2 engineering degrees from Stanford University, was commissioned as an officer in the U.S. Air Force, and earned a Ph.D. in astronautical engineering from the Naval Postgraduate School. Despite perfect vision after corrective eye surgery, her pre-surgical eyesight disqualified her and shattered her astronaut dream. We're excited to have her here because we have a whole bevy of incredible things to talk about. Let's welcome her back to the show. Welcome back, Dr. Carter. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Jim. I'm excited to be here.
You know, you started out in a pretty technical field. What got you interested initially in coaching?
Yes, so as you were saying, I did spend 20 years wanting to be an astronaut and went down the whole engineering and science path. And incidentally, I have actually been interested in leadership and team dynamics for about as long as I had wanted to be an astronaut. I grew up watching Star Trek and Star Wars and, watching stargazing, and all these things were very inspiring to me. And, an astronaut came and talked to my class when I was in 5th grade, and I was hooked from then on. And you might not think that those things have much to do with each other, space and leadership, but in fact they do. And as a fan of Star Trek and Star Wars, you actually learn a lot of leadership and team dynamics from those areas as well. But I actually, when I was little, I went to space camp, and I got to go to various levels of space camp and had a lot of team experiences. So while I was learning about space, I was also learning about leadership and what makes for good leadership, what makes for bad leadership, or I was maybe not good and bad, but effective or ineffective leadership. And so as these things were kind of coming along all at the same time, and of course joining the Air Force, I learned a lot more about leadership and got a lot of training. And my astronaut dream didn't work out, and I wasn't allowed, not allowed, or that didn't come forth because of my eyesight, I have realized just over the years that I really resonate with people a lot. I'm always really excited to find out what really motivates people, what makes them show up to work, what gets them out of bed in the morning. And that was really more exciting to me than engineering. So without the actual astronaut piece of it, engineering itself was not really a goal of mine. And as I discovered that, I also realized that I did actually have a profound impact on people, just even by walking down the hall and smiling. I'm kind of always smiling wherever I go, and I smile at everybody. And I had somebody tell me that really made a huge impact in their life every day, seeing me walk down the hall and smile at them. So it started to become apparent to me that I had a profound impact on people, and I just really enjoyed being with people. And so that did end up leading to coaching when I decided to leave active duty Air Force and become a reservist. So coaching became my next career, basically.
That's fantastic. That's a great progression. You started out in a pretty technical field, and you've been able to really manage it in such a glorious way. And you used something called energy leadership in your coaching, which I think is really fascinating. Tell us about that.
Yes, energy leadership is, first of all, it's the work of Bruce D. Schneider and the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, which is where I was certified. So I just want to acknowledge my mentors there. And energy leadership is it's a practical 7-level framework for really shifting your perspective and your energy in any situation. So you can shift your perspective and then the action that follows it. So you can really use it to inform your next step. So it's like having 7 pairs of glasses that you can look through, and you get to choose which pair to use when you're making your choices.
That's fantastic. Now, there's something else, too, that I think is really fascinating, and maybe you can really break this out for us. There are 7 levels of energy in this framework. What are they? Tell us about that.
So the 7 levels and the 7 pairs of glasses, how they work is they kind of ascend up what you could call sort of a ladder of awareness or consciousness. And the first one, level 1, is sort of seeing things from a bit of a woe is me perspective. So I'm going to use an example as I walk through them. I'll use a traffic example. I live in the greater Washington, D.C. area, and traffic is a very living, real thing here. And so if you're looking at these 7 levels, at level 1, say you're driving home from work and it's been a long day, there's a lot of traffic, and somebody kind of speeds past you and cuts you off. At level 1, in a woe is me state where you just sort of default to being at the mercy of life and circumstances, you might say, this always happens to me. And that's your response. Now at level 2, moving up, there's a bit of there's blame and there's conflict and it's a default to a fight response. So this is where you would get really angry and you might swear and say, what a jerk. So now you have labeled this person a jerk at level 2. At level 3, you actually start to take some responsibility for your reactions. And you can rationalize and turn a frown upside down. This is kind of finding the silver lining. And there's a little bit of a difference here than at some of the later levels, and I'll explain that. But here you go to a rationalization response like, phew, at least I didn't get in an accident. So at this level, you're focused on yourself, but you can rationalize to sort of release blame, to release and forgive. But you're still sort of seeing the situation as negative or bad. Then at level 4, you're actually starting to focus on the well-being of others. So your level 4 response might be, maybe they're rushing to the hospital. I hope they're okay. So at that level, you are actually, your first response is actually to hope for the best for the other person, and it's not about you. At level 5, then there's sort of even a greater perspective of it's win-win. We're all in this together, and you're also you see opportunity in every situation. So you might respond as saying, "Oh, that's interesting. What can I do with this situation? What's the opportunity here?" And as you probably notice on the roads, most people don't respond like that, right? So usually we're in 1 or 2. But so the first 1 through 5 are a little bit more in the seemingly practical space. Then we get to 6 and 7, which can be a little bit more esoteric. And level 6 is more of sort of a feeling of oneness with the universe and with everyone, and that everything is always unfolding in perfect time and in perfect space. And so this is where you would say something like, I am a radiant being dancing with every aspect of this human experience, and this is part of the flow of life. So this is where you're actually kind of just embodying a sense of inner peace no matter what happens. So things still happen. People still cut you off in traffic, but it's not a problem. It's not a challenge. It's part of the actual joy of life. And this sometimes can be taken for like resignation or it is what it is energy, but that's actually not it. It's actually really genuine enthusiasm and excitement for whatever is unfolding. And then level 7 is a level of just pure consciousness. So this one, sometimes we kind of laugh about this because it's really nothing is perceived as real. So you would just say, hey, I am pure consciousness and this traffic is not even real. This car isn't real. I'm not even real. So that is maybe not necessarily a practical way to be in the world, because the world just doesn't exist at that level. But as you go up in the level, you have access to everything, to every level below. So the most practical aspect of level 7 energy, which nobody in this lifetime anyway sits around resonating at level 7. But you can use and tap into the energies of all the levels below, and basically consciously choose your response in any situation. So the more you learn and practice with this 1 through 7, the more you can, or really just kind of the 7 aspect, or the aspect at any level again, is to choose and have those glasses and say, okay, which one am I going to use for this situation today?
I like that. How do you apply energy leadership to everyday life? I mean, how has it worked for you personally?
Just so that scale, the progression that I just went through for that one example, what I do is basically run through that. If I am kind of experiencing a challenging situation, I run through the levels, and it might sound at first like that. Well, gosh, every time something happens, I can't just sit down and fill out a worksheet on how to go through it. But you actually start, as you get practice and start to assess and decompose or deconstruct situations in your life and see them from these different perspectives, you actually kind of develop a go-to rhythm. And I'll say for me, my go-to that I have practiced over the years is a level 5 question of what's the opportunity here. So I'll give you a story how this actually worked for me. A few years ago, I had studied energy leadership for about a year and a half. I've been studying it for about a year and a half at this time, and I went to teach a mindfulness workshop for the first time outside of my Air Force Reserve job. I teach mindfulness in my Air Force Reserve job for the government, but I had not ever taught it outside the government. And I was teaching it at a wellness center, and I only had 3 people sign up, but which as you're a beginning entrepreneur, that's totally normal. Sometimes you have nobody sign up. Sometimes you have very small numbers. But so 3 people came. And as I was talking to them before the workshop started, I realized, we were at a wellness center, right? So all 3 of them, I realized, had a lot more mindfulness experience than I did. And in the past, I think my default would have been total imposter syndrome. I was, freaking out. Well, who am I? How in the world can I teach these people anything? Because they know a lot more about this than I do. That would have been my go-to. And while I noticed that I had an initial response of, that eek response, it so quickly shifted to what's the opportunity here? And then I saw the opportunities of first of all, it's a small group, so we can just sit down and have a conversation, like a fireside chat, and that'll be really fun. Or I could learn something from them. And also, my perspective is different, and maybe they'll have a new idea or see something in a new way that they hadn't before. And all of that happened in like a split second. And for me, just at that point, I realized, oh my gosh, this energy leadership thing is working. It's awesome. So it just the more you practice it, getting into that space where you can see something in a new way, apply it in a new way, is really powerful. So I'll give you one more example. So with me, that was kind of how I applied it in that example. But you could do, we could do this all day long. Throw out a topic and we can go through the 7 levels of it. And I'll use, for example, a leadership topic that it comes up a lot, which is focus, right? So as a leader, where are you placing your focus? Where is the focus of the organization as you're setting an example? And let's say you're, in your leadership, you are primarily resonating at level 1. and we're talking about focus, where you might be in a place where you're so overwhelmed by the speed and the pace of everything that's happening in the world that you are completely, unfocused. You can't focus on anything. It's squirrel, and you're just chasing, everything in front of you. Or you're so hyper-focused on D to keep a sense of control that you miss the forest for the trees, as it were. So there's just not really effective focus at that level, or you're just not even trying, because level 1 again is kind of a lower energy, not really having the energy to accomplish much, because you're kind of just holding yourself back and feeling again like a victim of circumstance. Now, as a leader at level 2, which is actually kind of the primary resonating level of the world in sort of the conflict old paradigm way. At level 2, when we think about focus, there can be the crisis mode of I can only focus on what's right in front of my face. I'm always putting out fires, and I can get a lot done. But am I getting the right things done? There's not really a feeling that you have enough time to pause and step back and assess what the right things are. Also, for level 2, there is a more of a directing and controlling of other people. There's a leadership by fear sometimes lives here, where you're trying to compel people to do what you want, or to do things the way that you want. So this would be like, I know what you should be focusing on, and I'm going to tell you. And if you focus on anything else, you're wrong. So that's kind of where that would live. And then if we're talking about focus and leadership at a level 3 level, again, this is where, again, we're focusing on ourselves, not trying to tear anybody else down, but focusing on our own wins. And we're here working on managing our own focus. So, okay, I get it. I get that I need to pause and step back. So I'm going to do what I need to do to manage my own energy and manage my own focus. At level 4, which is that level of caring and taking care of others, this is where with genuine insight and caring, you see what would be most effective for other people to focus on. So unlike level 2, where it's like, I know what you should be focusing on, and I'm going to tell you how to do it and what to do, at level 4, there's a caring, loving side of that. Like, hey, have you thought about, doing something like this? So there's a lot of coaching that lives here in level 4. Lots of coaches have a lot of level 4 energy. We love to help. We love to fix. But fix is the key word there that keeps you, that is sort of, if you can move past that, you can jump into level 5. So level 4 sounds nice, and it certainly is, but you can get stuck in that feeling of trying to fix people, which inherently has the concept that something is broken or that people are broken, and they're not. Nobody is broken. Everybody has all the resources they need inside of them. And the more when we jump in to try to fix, we actually kind of disempower people from taking their own steps forward and growing their own muscles for resolving challenges. So at level 5, when we're in more of that, let's all work together and inspiration sort of level, this is where you actually inspire people to take ownership of their own focus and what they're focusing on. So as a leader at level 5, you're not jumping in to do all the work to relieve the burden off of someone, which is a lot of people's first instincts. You are actually saying, okay, how can I support you in doing this in the most effective way yourself? So there's a really big jump in leadership empowerment from level 4 to level 5, where you allow and empower the people who work with you, for you, whatever, to take their own ownership and to see opportunities, and that life itself is just a big giant opportunity for experimentation. So that's a really, really powerful leadership energy. And then at level 6 as well, there's we're focused there. You're just kind of always trusting that you're always guided to focus on the exact right thing that will be the next step in the unfolding of your life purpose. So basically everything in life just flows for itself and flows with purpose, and you're not worried about where to place your focus. You just always focus naturally on what is the highest good to everyone. And level 7, again, of beingness, this is where you would just say, I am focused, and that's the end of the conversation. Or it's actually unfocused because in a just omnipresent, omnipotent kind of way that that everything just is oneness. Again, not a super duper practical, how do you use this at work kind of energy, but just the ability to see all the other levels and choose them at will is the big power there. So I'm going to pause. It was a lot of talking.
Yeah, but it's terrific at all. It's effective and it's very important. And it's something that can really lead to peace and solace and healing and understanding of what needs to really transpire. What becomes possible for your clients as a result of all of this when they work with you?
The short answer is anything and everything becomes possible, because you just, things that you never imagined before just come into your awareness. So that's super cool. But literally, people see life in a whole new way. And, the concrete example, I had a client who we walked through this framework. He had a challenge he was facing, and we walked through questions at each of the levels, and it only took about 10 minutes, and he went from dreading the scenario or the interaction he was going to have with a certain person to actually being excited. It's like, wow, I'm actually really excited to go have this conversation because, I have all these options now that I didn't have before. Because usually people just see life literally through levels 1 or 2 or maybe 1 or 3, but they're not as aware of the other ones. And just creating more space for those visualizations and opportunities, again, creates a huge range of options that people had not seen before. So I'll give you a couple other examples. I also had someone who was working on her career progression and trying to figure out what her next job might be, and she had reflected a lot on her past life and thought about what she had learned from previous jobs, but had never actually projected herself into the future. And we did an exercise where she basically projected herself 10 years in the future and was writing about what she had accomplished in her life, in the last 10 years. And she was surprised to discover that it didn't really have a whole lot to do with jobs of any kind, and it was about what was really important to her in life. And it was the first time she had actually realized, wow, you're allowed to have goals that aren't about work. And so just, again, seeing that openness of perspective and seeing new possibilities land, it literally changed the course of her life and was really, really, really powerful. And then the last one is, I had another client who was having some challenging family relationships and also a challenging relationship with herself. She was in a period where she wasn't really feeling very worthy of taking up space. She didn't really know who she was, and it was a bit in level 1, spending a lot of time in level 1, kind of poor me, victim mentality energy, because she couldn't stand up for herself and was just not feeling good about life in general. But we went through this. We used some other modalities as well, and she really shifted her energy into a way of she just accessed a lot more of those higher levels of energy where she realized who she was. She let go of a lot of the stories she was telling herself, and she really became a lot more confident in who she was. She has had conversations with family members that she's been wanting to have for years, and had them, and released a lot of emotion, and also released her attachment to the outcome. That's another thing that happens as you go up the levels, is your attachment to the outcome decreases, because you are in that space where you can create anything and also recognize that there is no good or bad. There is, it's not about judging a situation as good or bad. You're just experiencing life. And again, not in a resigned way, like, it is what it is. Those are down actually in the lower sort of rationalization energies. But in truly savoring every single experience of life and being able to choose different ways of showing up. So when you actually release your attachment to what someone else thinks of you, or how you are showing up, or again we spend so much time in everyone else's head, or in what we think everyone else's head is saying about us, and we have no idea what's actually going on in there. Actually, the only thing we know anything about or can control is who we are and how we are. So anyway, her work in that area has, again, dramatically changed her satisfaction and her confidence and the way she shows up in life.
Very important, absolutely. Let's talk about some of the ways that people can work with you.
So the best place to start is with one small step. You know, we talked in the previous show about taking small steps as a runner and a marathoner. I'm a big fan of one small steps. Also, one small step and for a man, one giant leap for mankind from Neil Armstrong. I literally actually have an energy leadership workshop that is called One Small Step, because I think basically the very first step in going from where you are to where you want to be is identifying where you are. And in energy leadership, there is actually an assessment, an energy leadership index assessment, that measures your current energetic baseline. So where are you? Where is your average resonating level in these energy level in this framework? So once you know that, you can say, all right, cool, now I have a lot more awareness of how I'm showing up. Now, how do I move forward with that? So you're definitely not stuck anywhere where, at any particular level. And we're at any one moment too, we're a combination of these levels. You're not just in one or the other. But so you can take this assessment, pinpoint where you are, and then take another small step and another small step, and all of that kind of adds up to a giant leap. So one small step is a workshop. The first is the best way to start working with me. And then actually next year I have coming a group program called Giant Leap. So we're going to go from the one small step to Giant Leap. And that's going to be a group program where we go through a longer period of basically working on, launching into your epic life. And then I also have one-to-one coaching, which I call Epic Life Lab, which is where we do high touch, high impact, really deep work into you really living into your epic life. So those are currently the three ways that I have to work with me. And of course, also just, I send out, I do little videos every week with talking about photos and themes from my book, Running the World, and send inspirational content and things like that. So.
What would you say is the most important message that you can leave for our Close-Up Radio listeners today?
That message is really to not discount the power of one small step. You have the power to change your life, and you get to start that right now. You don't have to wait or ask anyone for permission. You already have inside of you everything you need to take your one small step. So, for example, if you're listening to this today, you had to actually click play on this interview. And if you before you could do that, you had to find the interview. And to do that, you were probably searching for something. And to be searching for something, you had to decide to search. And to inspire you to decide to search, that probably means you had a desire for something. Maybe it's a desire for change. Maybe it's inspiration you're looking for. Maybe it's peace you're looking for. Whatever it is, maybe something that we say here today changes the course of your day or your year or your life. And all of that started with one small step that you have already taken, and it just takes one more step on top of that to keep moving forward and just create epic momentum to live that epic life that you were born to live.
That's fantastic. Really, really great information and great resource, and I think it's fantastic. I really encourage folks to go to the website, and it's epiclifeactually.com. The word epic, then the word life, then the word actually, and then .com. Melissa, this was really fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us, and I want to let the audience know there will be part 3 coming up as well as the series continues, so stay tuned for that, gang. I wish you the very best of the holidays, Melissa, to you and yours, and really a pleasure having an opportunity to chat with you on this episode of Close Up Radio.
Thank you so much, Jim, and happy holidays to you and yours as well, and to everyone listening.
Thank you very much. We'll look forward to part 3 coming up with Dr. Melissa Corley Carter, the barefoot dancing rocket scientist. She's extraordinary. Again, here's that website to make contact with her. She's extraordinary. She's very relatable, approachable, and she really wants to help. epiclifeactually.com. For all of us here, I'm Jim Masters, your host, thanking you for your time this time till next time and inviting you to stay tuned. I'll be back in less than 30 minutes from another extraordinary guest for you right here on Close Up Radio. Till then, for all of us, have a terrific day, and bye for now.
You have been listening to a broadcast from Close Up Radio, a division of Close Up Television Incorporated. For more information about our show and to be considered for future broadcasts, please visit closeuptelevision.com. You may also learn about us on social media and listen to us on podcast and internet radio. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you have an empowered and productive day.